The Kremlin once called Crimea the crown jewel of the Russian Empire. Today that jewel is gone. Only rust and dust remain. As Vladimir Putin studies the battlefield maps, the red line he proudly drew has already been erased. At the first light of 2026, Crimea faces its greatest siege in history, not by missiles, not by tanks. This time the enemy is invisible. The poison in the tap water, the salt killing the fields, the fuel missing from the tanks. Crimea, once called Russia's unsinkable aircraft carrier, is now turning into a ghost ship, adrift, broken, its people slowly suffocating. Today on Mr. Warlog, we break through Russia's censorship wall to reveal what is really happening inside Crimea. As the world celebrated the new year, cities like Simferopol, Kerch, and Feodosia woke up to medieval conditions. No water, no truce, only silence and suffering. The occupation authorities quickly tried to control the narrative. They blamed everything on a so-called technical malfunction. Voda Crimea, the Kremlin-controlled water authority, issued the usual statement, "We are repairing the system," but the reality on the ground tells a completely different story. Videos briefly posted by residents in Kerch showed something terrifying. Yellow, foul-smelling liquid flowing from household taps. Not water. Contamination. Rust from decaying pipes. Sewage mixing into the drinking system. Russian officials still dared to call it safe to drink. This is not mismanagement. This is criminal negligence. Biological evidence that the infrastructure has collapsed. People are not receiving water. They are being slowly poisoned. And the most disturbing part? This collapse did not happen overnight. It is the result of years of neglect, corruption, and deliberate prioritization of weapons over human survival. Because in occupied Crimea, missiles matter more than citizens. The occupation authorities quickly tried to control the narrative. They blamed everything on a so-called technical malfunction. Voda Crimea, the Kremlin-controlled water authority, issued the usual statement, "We are repairing the system," but the reality on the ground tells a completely different story. Videos briefly posted by residents in Kerch showed something terrifying. Yellow, foul-smelling liquid flowing from household taps. Not water. Contamination. Rust from decaying pipes. Sewage mixing into the drinking system. Russian officials still dared to call it safe to drink. This is not mismanagement. This is criminal negligence. Biological evidence that the infrastructure has collapsed. People are not receiving water. They are being slowly poisoned. And the most disturbing part? This collapse did not happen overnight. It is the result of years of neglect, corruption, and deliberate prioritization of weapons over human survival. Because in occupied Crimea, missiles matter more than citizens. And now the crisis is no longer just humanitarian. It has become something darker, something political. Because when water became scarce, the occupation administration made a choice. Who will receive the last water? The sick children of Crimea? The elderly? The ordinary families? No. According to leaked reports, priority was given to military bases and Russian tourists. Luxury hotels kept their pools full. Resorts continued serving cocktails, while local families stood in lines with empty bottles. Officials even admitted publicly, tourist zones will receive uninterrupted water supply. Read between the lines. It means locals can suffer, so outsiders can relax. This is not governance. This is discrimination by design. Water has become a weapon, a tool of control, a silent method to punish the population. Without water, there is no dignity, no stability, no future. And in Crimea today, that future is drying up faster than anyone wants to admit. But the disaster doesn't end with thirst. Because without water, there is no agriculture. And without agriculture, There is no economy. Crimea was once famous for its vineyards, its wheat fields, its fruit farms. Today, those lands are dying. Experts confirm that over-extraction of underground water has poisoned the soil. Salt is rising to the surface. Fertile earth is turning into toxic dust. Farmers say their crops no longer grow. Trees are drying. Harvests are failing. Even government reports admit that agricultural production has collapsed. Russia announced subsidies, billions of rubles on paper. But money cannot create rain. Money cannot restore dead land. You cannot bribe nature. This is the true cost of occupation and mismanagement. A land that once fed millions is now unable to feed itself. Crimea is not being rebuilt. It is being consumed. And every day, this silent environmental collapse pushes the peninsula closer to a point of no return. Now imagine this future clearly. Close your eyes and picture Crimea. Do you see green vineyards? Do you see fertile fields? Forget them. Northern Crimea is transforming into a second environmental disaster. Like the Aral Sea, once full reservoirs are now cracked basins of dry mud. The Isabili Reservoir, once the deepest in the peninsula, is now nearly empty. It used to supply drinking water to entire cities. Today it supplies dust. This is not a natural drought. This is man-made collapse. When Russia destroyed the Kakhovka Dam in 2023, it permanently disrupted the entire hydraulic system. Feeding Crimea, the canals stopped flowing. The pressure collapsed. The water cycle died. What remains is a broken ecosystem that cannot heal. For decades, environmental experts warn, even if Russia left today, the damage would last generations. This is not temporary hardship. This is permanent destruction. Crimea is not under development. It is under slow extinction. And where there is scarcity, there is always someone ready to profit from suffering. Welcome to the new economy of Crimea, the water mafia. According to investigative reports, billions of rubles sent from Moscow for infrastructure repair never reached the pipes. They reached pockets. Here's how the system works. Authorities cut water, claiming there is none. Hours later, private tanker arrives. Nulogu. No receipt. Cash only. The price? Up to 50 times higher than normal rates. Who owns these tankers? Leaked documents point to officials inside the occupation administration and criminal networks working together. While families suffer dehydration, someone is buying new cars, new villas, new power. This is not governance. This is feudalism. The strong sell survival to the weak. This is the reality of the so-called Russian world, a system where even water becomes a weapon, and the people of Crimea are paying for it with their lives. But if the water crisis is slowly suffocating Crimea, then the fuel crisis is the bullet to its heart. Because when taps run dry, you bring water by tanker. But what happens when there is no diesel to run those tankers? That is exactly what is happening now. Local sources report that diesel fuel has vanished from Crimean gas stations. First premium gasoline disappeared, then regular fuel, now diesel. The lifeblood of logistics, gone. Why? Because Ukrainian strikes have crippled Russia's refineries. Supply routes over the Kerch Bridge are unstable. Ferries are delayed. Convoys are targeted. Crimea is being starved, not by accident, but by strategy. And without diesel, everything stops. Water trucks stop. Agricultural machinery stops. Delivery vehicles stop. Even military transport slows down. A military base that cannot fuel itself is no longer a fortress. It is a trapped outpost, waiting for collapse. Now something dangerous is happening. Something the Kremlin fears. More than drones, more than sanctions, more than foreign armies. The people are starting to wake up. In Crimea, fear is slowly breaking, because thirst is stronger than fear. Local reports from Kerch and Sevastopol describe rising anger, whispers turning into arguments, arguments turning into protests. The FSB is responding with phone checks, house searches, silent arrests, but the truth cannot be arrested. People see the hypocrisy. There is water. In military compounds, there is fuel. In army convoys, there are full pools. In tourist hotels. But in ordinary homes, mud flows from taps, and shelves are empty. This creates the most dangerous emotion for any regime: betrayal. People are no longer asking, "Why is Ukraine attacking us?" They are asking, "Why did Moscow abandon us?" This is how loyalty dies. Not with explosions, but with silence. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Putin believed that seizing Crimea would restore Russia's greatness. Instead, Crimea has become a black hole that absorbs resources, destroys credibility, and exposes weakness. Billions poured in. Nothing improved. Infrastructure collapsed. Public services failed.
Corruption flourished.
What was once a strategic trophy is now a strategic burden. Tourism is dying. Agriculture is collapsing. Investments have vanished. Young people are leaving, and the world is watching. Every empty reservoir, every fuel shortage, every protest sends the same message: Russia cannot govern what it occupies. Crimea is no longer a symbol of strength. It is evidence of failure. Empires do not collapse only from invasion. They collapse from overreach, mismanagement, and internal decay. And Crimea is showing all three. Not in the future, not gradually, but right now. Now let's talk about responsibility. Under international law, the occupying power is legally responsible for the health, safety, and survival of the people it controls. This is not opinion. This is the Geneva Convention. Russia accepted this duty the moment it occupied Crimea, but instead of protection, it delivered neglect. Instead of development, it delivered decay. Instead of stability, it delivered collapse. Hospitals lack medicine. Pharmacies run empty. Clean water is unavailable. Basic antibiotics are disappearing. Even water purification tablets are now a luxury. Doctors whisper about rising infections. Parents fear giving tap water to their children. This is not governance. This is abandonment. And when a government abandons its people, it loses legitimacy.
No propaganda
can hide reality from a thirsty child. No speech can silence a sick population. This is why the Crimean crisis is no longer political. It is moral, and history never forgives those who fail this test. But this crisis is not affecting everyone equally. According to human rights reports, water distribution in Crimea is no longer based on need. It is based on loyalty. Areas filled with Russian settlers receive tanker deliveries. Military zones stay supplied. Tourist districts stay clean. But villages with large Crimean Tatar populations are left dry for days, sometimes weeks. Is this coincidence? History says no. Stalin deported them by force. Putin is pushing them out by starvation. This is not open violence. This is soft ethnic cleansing. Make life unbearable. Cut water. Destroy livelihoods. Force people to leave without firing a single bullet. And when they leave, their homes are filled by loyal populations brought from Russia. Demographics rewritten, not with tanks, but with thirst. This is not just an environmental disaster. This is a demographic operation, a slow, silent replacement of an entire people. And the world is barely paying attention. Now understand this clearly. What is happening in Crimea is not a temporary crisis. It is a trajectory, a direction, collapse in motion. Russia thought it had conquered land, but in reality, it only inherited a disaster of its own making. Water systems broken, fuel supply shattered, soil poisoned, public trust destroyed. These are not problems you solve with propaganda. These are not wounds you hide with speeches. Nature does not negotiate. Physics does not obey orders. Ecology does not fear armies. Crimea was once presented as a symbol of victory. Today stands as evidence of incompetence,
Corruption.
and strategic blindness. Empires rarely fall because of enemies alone. They fall because their own systems collapse under the weight of arrogance. And that is exactly what we are witnessing here. Not tomorrow, not in theory, but right now. Now understand this clearly. What is happening in Crimea is not a temporary crisis. It is a trajectory, a direction, collapse in motion. Russia thought it had conquered land, but in reality, it only inherited a disaster of its own making. Water systems broken, fuel supply shattered, soil poisoned, public trust destroyed. These are not problems you solve with propaganda. These are not wounds you hide with speeches. Nature does not negotiate. Physics does not obey orders. Ecology does not fear armies. Crimea was once presented as a symbol of victory. Today stands as evidence of incompetence,
Corruption.
and strategic blindness. Empires rarely fall because of enemies alone. They fall because their own systems collapse under the weight of arrogance. And that is exactly what we are witnessing here. Not tomorrow, not in theory, but right now. If you want to understand the real battles shaping our world, the hidden wars, the silent collapses, and the truths they don't want you to hear, subscribe to WarlogicX. Stay sharp, stay aware, stay with the truth.